Okay, good evening, everybody. So I'm going to try to record a class, and I think you all got my message. I just got out of hospital. I had lower back surgery. Some of you who have done your physiology courses, you heard of the lamina, the back part of the, I guess the vertebrae, back part of the spine, and mine was severely compressed, so it was pinching the nerves. It went from the size of a quarter to the size of a pinhead. He said he'd never seen such a constriction. So I was been suffering a long time because all the nerves are pinched and they go all over the body. So anyway, so they just took them right out. That was that severe. Sometimes you can shave them and create more space, but in my case, you have to take them right out. It's called a laminectomy. I was released home a couple of days ago, and here I am on my bed. It's a bit of an invalid. Well, good couple of weeks. I have to be pretty much, just rest a lot, and then recovery time 4 to 6 weeks. So I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to try and record our last class on the Gītā. I don't want to fall behind. Laura did very ably with chapter 15. It's very clear, and she had little charts for you. So I'm sure you get a really good sense of that. I'm an old-fashioned Shastri. A Shastri in India is someone that reads. I just read the text. So my way of sharing these traditions is to read the actual sources with you, which is really how traditions have been handed down over the millennia. So it was very nice to listen to Laura's lecture, and it was very clear, and she laid it out, and obviously that's a very attractive way of presenting the material. So I'm sure you will get a lot out of that. So that was chapter 15. So we're going to finish up now the concluding part of chapter 18. And I think our two lectures together will be the one class we missed from last week. So together that would, should be an hour and 20 minutes. Her class is 27 minutes, and mine will be whatever, 15 minutes. But if I kind of can't continue, then I will, I'll just let you know if I have to stop at any point. So let's bring up the text, okay? And let's kick off chapter 18, and we're going to go to the end. How does the Gītā conclude itself? Such a busy text. Of course, we've been focusing on the Ishvara teachings. Much more, lots of jnana about the Atman, a lot of that. I know Laura had discussed some of those verses, beginning of chapter 15, kind of jnana verses. When we talk about jnana, we mean the verses that are dealing with the Atman, the existence of an Atman, that it's not the body-mind, and how to suffering, all of that. Body of information about what we are, what we're not, what is desire, why does it bind us, why is it our enemy, why is it never satiated? That's all kind of jnana. When that jnana, and many traditions are just jnana traditions in Indian philosophy. They don't really have, either if Ishvara is not present, although most traditions do have, Ishvara is present. But like in the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali, Ishvara is present in a secondary sort of way. It's someone that can give you jnana, can give you experience. But the stronger tradition, the traditions which have a stronger relationship with Ishvara, we would call bhakti, where the primary focus is on Bhagavan and secondary on the Atman. Atman is always there. It's not that it's an alternative. You can't do bhakti without jnana. After what is it that is connected with Ishvara other than your own Atman? So first you have to establish you have an Atman. But then you go on to focus on not just establishing your own Atman, but the existence of the Supreme Atman. Okay. They're very busy. Spoken a lot about dharma, duty, which we haven't focused on, but those of you that know the Gītā, maybe a little look at some of those verses. Do your duty in the world, act according to whatever your dharmas, multiple dharmas are. What makes that yoga? What makes that, yoga? What makes that jnana? How do you act in the world and attain the same result as those who do the Atman. Remember, in yoga, one of them is action, one inaction. Well, you act in the world giving up attachment to the fruits. You don't give up the work. Do that same work as everybody else, but you're no longer doing it for body-mind reasons, for selfish reasons. Remember, the wrong self, body-mind self, real self, Atman. Sleep in your Atman, so you act with no detachment. If you can act with no detachment, no attachment. I'm a little fuzzy. It's because I take some pain medicine for a few days, and that might make me a bit loopy. All right, so Jnana Yoga. So bhakti then is where it is all of that. Jnana means I'm an Atman. Karma Yoga means, okay, I'm an Atman, but I can go to the forest and just seek my Atman and do Patanjali Yoga, Chitta Vritti Nirodha, or Krishna says you can do another kind of yoga, action in the world yoga, but for it to be yoga, you have to give up attachment to the fruits. You have to be detached, which means giving up attachment to the fruits. All of this, and there's a lot of discussion about Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, discussion about Vedic ritualism. It's a very busy text, the Gītā. But how does it all conclude? Because in Indian philosophical traditions, the conclusory statements carry the most weight, or certainly very important weight, especially in a very busy text. And you think, okay, what do I go away with? What's the primary message here? Just like in our writing, you write the paper, what are you supposed to do? You introduce the topic in the introduction. So introductory statements, same as in Sanskrit literature, carry weight, enormous weight. And then you conclude it all. So if you get lost in the paper, or if you don't have time to read it, the body of the paper with all the data, what do? You read the introduction, conclusion, then at least you know what the author is arguing. And the body of the text is the data. If the data is busy and confusing, you get lost and you think, okay, where's this going? Where's this author going? What's all this about? Then you read the conclusion. What's the author trying to say with all this? So here's the conclusion. Conclude. Verse 50, chapter 18, right? There's only 72 verses, so we're right at the end. Krishna says, "O son of Kunti, having attained perfection." Now, perfection here could be siddha. Let's have a look over here. Let's have a look at the Sanskrit. What does he mean by perfection? Verse 15, siddham, siddhim, is siddhim here, siddhim, perfection. In the context of jnana, having realized your soul, your Atman. It's not a term that's usually used for bhakti, pertaining to Ishvara. The term siddha, the siddhas are those who realize their own Atman. So having attained that, is that the end of the journey? Well, it is for some jnana traditions. Just attain your Atman, that's it. And the Gītā. Now, having attained that, now listen as I tell you in summary how one can attain Brahman, which is the highest stage of knowledge. Okay, now what Brahman are we talking about? We know Brahman can mean different things to different people. In the Jnana traditions, Brahman just means the Atman, Shankara. Ultimately, Atman, Brahman, one thing, and that's it. We know for Ramanuja, Brahman, the highest expression of Brahman is Ishvara, a personal being. So let's see one. So, the one who is endowed with a pure intellect, okay, got to be sattvic, mind has to be pure for any kind of yoga. Can't be obsessed with desires, rajas, because then it's going to be occupied with running around trying to fulfill desires. So we have to be pure, free of all the desires. Another way of saying that, sattvic. Sattvic is calm, peaceful, detached, seeing things for what they are, seeing the ephemeral nature, temporary nature of all things. Who controls the mind with determination? That this sattva doesn't come by itself, my friends. We have to control the mind if you want to be yogi. With determination. No magic wand in yoga. So that by controlling the mind, especially if we're very rajasic, if we have that disposition, we want to become calm and peaceful and sattvic, no magic, we have to work at it. And what does that mean to work at it? Who has abandoned attachment to the objects of the senses? We give up running up, chasing these desires. running after sensual objects. But then how do we live? Well, you live without passion or hatred. You don't need a raga dvesha, Patanjali. You don't run after things. You don't hate things. You just, everything is karma. Everything's just the flowing of the gunas, the flowing of reality. We are in the situation we're in. I'm right now sitting on my invalid bed, missing the bottom part of my backbone. Why? It's karma. Karma. So I must have done something in the past life to some poor creature. Did something to someone's backbone. Now my karma caught up with me. So you see reality like that, right? Without passion or hatred. Don't say, oh, I wish this, that, and the other, or I hate this, that, and the other. Just accepting what comes, doing one's duty, offering everything up to Bhagavan. This is bhakti. Who exists in solitude? Right? No need for superficial chit chat. It's not real. It's not really going to be useful in the ultimate goals of life. In solitude, then you could do your practices, nobody distracted. Eating eagerly, got to control the senses. You eat. Earlier in the Gītā, Krishna says, moderation, not too much, not too little. Yoga is moderation in eating. He specifically says, eating not too much, not too little. Sleeping not too much, not too little. Who restrains body, mind, and speech through meditation. Control the body, control the mind, right? The mind always wants to get into anxiety, wants to start imagining, daydreaming, fantasizing, all of it. Control, that's all nonsense. That's speech. Speak only what is true, what is meaningful. These are restraints. Restrain the body, restrain the senses of the body, that means the senses. Don't let the senses wander all over the place, pursuing their objects. This is yoga. This is the life of a yogi. Through meditation, fixing the mind, who seeks renunciation, right? That's goal. I want to renounce the world because I seek something higher. So you seek it. Just like people seek gold, right? Think of all the people in Ireland and Europe and the old world and went set off to California seeking gold. They engaged in so much austerity. They did some of this. For what? For just a piece of shiny metal. But nonetheless, they had that determination. So the yogi, not like that, obviously. It's not seeking a foolish piece of shiny metal. It's seeking the ultimate Atma. To seek renunciation and exist without a sense of I am a doer, right? Who's doing? The body is made of Prakriti. Mind is made of Prakriti. So everything is really Prakriti, and Prakriti is Ishvara Shakti. Krishna says, it's my Shakti. There's a material Shakti, right? Buddhira Hankara, Apo Nayo, the earth, water, air, fire. This is my material Prakriti. Then another one, Apareya Mitastvanyam, there's another one, Yatman. So who's doing? When I lift my hand, who's doing? This is matter. My Atman maybe is the ultimate agent, but the actual thing that's doing it is Prakriti. We don't own Prakriti. We don't own our bodies. We die, the body gets taken back into Prakriti. So who's doing it then? So without this sense of I am the doer, understanding my karma comes to me, my body responds to it. Of course, I have free will. I can decide what to do. I'm not a machine. So in that sense, I'm the kartra, Krishna calls it, the agent. But everything I use in order to act, including my mind, my decision making, it's all Prakriti. I just get to make a decision how I wish to act. But actual action is done by Prakriti. So where are we? So exists without a sense of I am a doer. That such a person is a yogi. You want to know what a yogi is? There it is right there, my friends. It's not someone that goes down and pays $25 for an hour class in postural yoga, wearing a leotard, you touch your toes. That's not what a yogi is. That's the yogi right here. There's a, right? Abandon attachment, the object of senses, lives without passion or hatred, exists in solitude, eats meagerly, restrains the body. Write that down on a nice poster and stick it in the window of the yoga studio, wherever you live. No, don't do that. But this is a real yogi. So such a soul is free from harshness and pride. But what I just said was a bit harsh. So free from that and pride, ego. Free from desire and ego. Free from possession and proprietorship. Understand, I don't own anything. Everything can be taken away in a second, including your own backbone. It's right inside your body. Still, they can take. Still, you can lose it. Karma will take it away. Your own bone, your own bones, my friends. So, free of that. It's just a body. You can be attached to it. If you die, you get another body. What's the big deal? Such a person is peaceful and is qualified for the state of Brahman. Now, notice it doesn't say he's attained Brahman. These are the pre-qualifications, right? Like you want to go to med school, you have to do your prereqs, and you go to med school. These are prereqs for the state of Brahman, right? So on we go. Now, so once you got those prereqs in place, and these requirements have been stressed throughout the Gītā, and even in Laura's lecture, I think it was verse 9, she was discussing similar sorts of things. And the whole text is pervaded by this. We would call that jnana, by the way. All this is jnana. Notice there's no bhakti there. There's no mention of Ishvara, surrender to Ishvara. So all this kind of talk, all this kind of language of renunciation, of simplicity, of having no ego, that's just jnana. All of this is the sort of subject matter of jnana. Now we're going to move to bhakti. 54. Now, one who has attained all of that, one who has attained Brahman, once you get to this place of a sattvic mind, absorbed in true knowledge of the self, who has become serene, calm, neither laments nor desires. No desires. No, you don't desire things. You don't lament when you lose things. Being equally disposed to all, because the yogi sees that everyone is the same. What's the difference? Friend and foe, that's just the mind and the body. Inside there's an Atman. The yogi doesn't have friends and foes because he sees the commonality. How do you see the commonality? Well, you have to, where are the differences? The differences are in the body. All this racism and sexism and all these other isms, they're states of the body. They pertain to the body. And then mind, you don't like people's personality, or this one is a saint, this one is a sinner. These are all mental states. If you go, but one who sees beyond both of those layers of body, mind, become equally disposed to all. Now, notice now we're going to connect all this with Ishvara. Once one has done all this yogic work, established in these basic principles of yoga, then such a yogi obtains unalloyed devotion to me. Unalloyed means nothing else. Only this, exclusive. Okay, what's the word in Sanskrit? 54. Mad bhaktim labate param. Hamabhuta prasanatmana sochiti nakankshati samha sarveshu bhutesu. Mad bhakti, it doesn't say unalloyed in the Sanskrit. It says mad bhaktim labate param. It says my supreme bhakti, param. Okay, so to be a bhakta, we have to be yogis first, which means understanding the Atman and all the things the yogis have to do. Bhakti, you add another layer onto all of that. What's that layer? Is now you connect all of that, you connect your very deep level nature as an Atman to a supreme being. So that's so it's not that some, Shankara would say bhakti takes you to Brahman, and then you don't need bhakti anymore. Notice that. Shankara, ultimately, Ishvara, all of this is illusion. So bhakti may be useful to take you to Brahman. Once you're there, you don't need bhakti anymore. You become one with Brahman. No. Gita's not saying that. Because when you have attained Brahman, after that you get bhakti. Not that bhakti takes you there and then you don't need bhakti. It's the other way around. Once you've attained Brahman, then bhakti becomes an option. Okay, so notice the language here. Check the Sanskrit if you want to over here. 54. And now, so how do we know Ishvara then? We know how we know the Atman. We know the Atman by Chitta Vritti Nirodha, Patanjali method. still the mind, then we can know the Atman through our own willpower, really. There are jnana paths, jnana yoga path, where we can know the Atman through intense contemplation on the Atman. What about bhakti? Can we capture God by ego? Well, the answer is obviously no, isn't it? Because God is unconquerable. Nothing can curtail God. So how do we know God? Through such devotion, bhakti. One who knows the truth of my greatness at once enters into my nature. It's through bhakti that one can know that the greatness of the Atman is great, but how much greater than its Ishvara pervades all the Atmans and all the creation. So that's real greatness. That's this is supreme greatness. Through performing all kinds of activities. Don't have to give up our duties, my friends. You have families, you maintain your families. You can be a bhakta, maintain family, maintain your careers, but everything is connected to Bhagavan. If you want your lives to be the lives of a bhakta, a life spent in dedication of bhakti yoga, it's not that you have to. Some parts you do, potentially you have to give everything up. But not bhakti. What do you do then in bhakti? Well, what makes a bhakta different from anybody else then? If you could do anything you want, well, you offer everything to Bhagavan. So performing all kinds of activities, all our duties in the world. We have so many dharmas, right? You have dharmas now as students. I have a dharma as a teacher. Friends, different dharmas to our parents, different dharmas to our children if we have children, different dharmas to, the lady in the checkout counter. There's a dharma there. We can be, loving, have a loving interaction with every being. These are all kinds of dharmas. Ever trusting me, always having faith in Bhagavan, that Bhagavan's got my back. Bhagavan will never let me down. The Bhagavan, Krishna, the Gītā says elsewhere, Kuntya pratijanihi name bhakta pranasyati. My devotee will never perish. My bhakta will never perish. So, such a person, by my grace, not by willpower. Atman you can get by your willpower. You can get it by your yogic virtuosity. So how do you attain Bhagavan? By grace. But when Bhagavan sees that we're surrendered, and we surrender our ego, we do the opposite. We surrender our sense of ego and sense that I can accomplish, I will be successful in this yoga. No, we of course we do all of the acts of yoga. We do all of that hard work, but we don't do it thinking we can capture Bhagavan that way. We do it just to show Bhagavan that we're from our side, we're doing everything we possibly can to attract the grace, the kindness of Bhagavan. So such a person, even engaging in the world of activity, but giving up attachment to the fruits, not doing things to satisfy desires, doing them only in dharma, duty, it's my duty, okay, maybe it's my duty to get married, maybe it's my duty to make my wife or husband happy, and my children, but never thinking I will get this, that, and the other. I will get. There's none of that. No, it's my duty to do this. That's the thinking of even a karma yogin. And a bhakta adds to that thinking. Not only am I doing my duty, I'm doing it without attachment. I'm not contemplating what I am going to get out of it, but I'm offering it all to Bhagavan, So such a person by my grace attains the eternal and imperishable abode. Notice he doesn't say what that is. And so therefore the different traditions. For Ramanuja, it's the kingdom of God. It's Vaikuntha, where Vishnu resides with his beloved devotees, engaging in eternal loving exchanges. In the Krishna tradition, it's Goloka. The bhaktas of Krishna reside with Krishna for all eternities. In our other course, we're doing Krishna when he descends, and one of the reasons when we'll look at that, in our other course, but we'll also be doing it now after this, finish the Gītā. Krishna comes and he engages in these loving interactions with his great bhaktas, his mother, his friends, the beloved gopi girlfriends. And that shows us what loving exchange with God looks like. Krishna comes to show us what that kingdom of God looks like. What does it mean to engage in eternal loving relationship with God? So for the Vaishnavas, for the followers of Vishnu, the eternal imperishable abode is a personal abode. It's not made of Prakriti. It's made of pure conscious. It's Brahman. Satchidananda. It's not made of the matter and perishable matter. It's an eternal divine abode where love of God, which means relationship and loving interaction, takes place. And for Shankara, we know none of that is true, is real. There's only Brahman, which is just infinite, an experience of infinite, no sense of individuality, no sense of personhood, no mind thinking thoughts, just a sense of eternal, infinite bliss. The difference in what the eternal and imperishable abode is both, except that it's eternal, but its nature, there'll be different opinions. So now then, mentally dedicate all your actions to me. This is bhakti. Whatever you do, you offer them to Bhagavan. Find a way of telling yourself a story that I'm doing this for Bhagavan. It has to be genuine. You can't be just doing some nonsense thing for yourself and then say, oh, I'm doing it for Bhagavan. Obviously, there has to be sincerity there. So mentally dedicate all your actions to me. Become devoted to me alone. This becomes the only goal, the only refuge, the support of the mind, the goal of life, the meaning of life, all of this. And with a disciplined mind, you still have, well, the bhakti yogi still has to control the senses, not get distracted by desires, by sense objects, by consumer items of consumer culture. Always think of me. Machita. So notice how it's different from Patanjali. Patanjali, you chitta vritti nirodha. You stop all thinking. But bhakti, look, the word chitta here. See chitta? What do you do with the chitta? You don't nirodha, right? You machita. You fix, you think, but think only of me. So the mind is active, it's engaging in vritti, but only vritti of Bhagavan. See? With mind fixed on me, you will cross all difficulties by my grace. Now, if out of egoism you fail to listen, you'll perish. If you don't want to listen to the instructions of Bhagavan, then just go your own way, you'll perish, or everything you do. Perish means whatever you do was subject to karma. You simply experience a life creating karma and experiencing karma, and then you get old and you die, and then you just come back and keep going round and round and round and round. Well, that's perishing in that sense. Driven by egotism, if you think, I will not fight, in other words, I won't do my dharma. His dharma is to fight this war. It's a righteous war. It's a dharmic war. Your intention is mistaken. Your very nature will force you to fight. You'll fight anyway because you're a warrior, and your nature is going to impel you. Once that battle starts and your brothers are, when you see them overwhelmed by the opposing forces, you're not going to sit there and just twiddle your thumbs. You're going to be, your nature will impel you into the fray. So anyway, you'll fight. So better you make that decision instead of being impelled by your prakritic nature, by your material ego. Make a decision. I'm going to do my dharma, which is to fight, and I offer it to Bhagavan. That's the idea. O son of Kunda, you're bound by the actions that are determined by your very nature. You're a warrior. You're bound by the nature and action of a warrior. You don't know how else to exist. In childhood, the warriors are trained to think like a warrior, act like a warrior, respond to situations like a warrior. Well, how else you don't know how else to be in the world? And you think you're going to go and sit on the hill and not do anything and just watch the battle on below? I don't think so. You're bound by your nature. Out of illusion, you wish to avoid those things. So you'll be forced to do all the same. Your very nature will force us, right? We're forced by nature. We have to go to the bathroom. Are we not forced to do that? We have to eat. Are we not forced to do that? We have to act. You can't just lie on a bed all day. Well, some people can maybe, but not forever. You're compelled to act. So the question is, what am I going to use this body for? How am I going to direct my actions? What is my nature, and how do I engage it in a way that's beneficial to the world? Am I a good manager? Am I a caretaker? Am I a teacher? Am I a warrior? Am I an activist? Whatever it is, do it out of the Gītā overall teaching, dharmically, righteously, not for yourself. Do it for others. Then Bhakti says, accepts all of that and adds on to it. All of that. But then, in addition to that, do it as an offering. The Lord is controller over Arjuna. Ishvara is controller, is situated in the heart of all beings. Ishvara is there along with every Atman has Ishvara. Ramanuja would take this in the sense that Ishvara accompanies, each Atman has its own Ishvara. Not that there's what Ishvara has an infinity of forms, and therefore personally connected to each Atman. The Lord is the Ishvara as controller or Arjuna. There's the word Ishvara over here, right? So Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam, right? There's the Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hrideshe. Ishvara in all beings in the heart region. Arjuna Tishtati is situated. Brahmayam Sarva Bhutani Yantra Rudhani Mayaya. Just like the body is like a machine, and Ishvara makes it work. The body is a machine. It's a bunch of organs, hands, organs of perception, internal organs, and Ishvara makes it all work. So it's a machine. Question is, my friends, how do we, here we are in university, students making decisions about how do we use these machines? This life of ours, this body of ours, how do we use it? So, but ultimately, Krishna says, the Lord is controller, Arjuna, is situated in the heart of all beings, and by divine power directs the movements of all creatures who are seated on this machine. But ultimately, we have free will. Ishvara allows us to choose, and then Ishvara directs the machine according to our choice. But if we choose ignorance and ego and desire, then there's the law. Machines act according to laws, and the law is the law of karma, where everything we do comes back to us, just simple cause and effect. So, but if one recognizes, well, if everything is Ishvara, so let me dedicate everything to Ishvara. It's not my machine anyway. So, O descendant of Bharata, with your whole being, take exclusive shelter of that one. That Ishvara, Krishna is saying, it's him. He says that one, but he really is talking about himself. By whose grace you will attain the eternal abode of supreme peace. Notice he doesn't say just the eternal abode, supreme peace. Okay? And then that's it. Then he winds down, but he's going to give it, but then he's going to, now the Gita is winding down. Thus I have declared to you this knowledge, which is more mysterious than any mystery. I wouldn't say mysterious, I would say secret, more intimate. It's very intimate. Bhagavan Ishvara is a personal being, and relationships are personal, right? You have personal, intimate relationships with your beloved, with your friends, and nobody knows about. You don't share with anyone else. With your parents, you don't share with anyone else. We all have, right, relationships, and the more close we are, the more intimate they are, the more personal they are. Rather, the more personal they are, the more intimate they are. So Krishna says, thus I have declared to you this knowledge, which is more, he says mysterious, I would say intimate than any mystery. Deliberate on this fully and act as you see fit. At the end, Arjuna has free will. The bodies may be machines, but they're not pre-programmed. Except from, karma from past life, that's fine. But the soul somehow is an agent that can make choices. And change if we've gone in the wrong direction. Krishna says doesn't matter. Previous verses, remember, apichat sudaracharo, even if you're the worst possible person, doesn't matter. The minute you make that resolution to reconnect to Bhagavan, sadhureva chamantavya, then you've become saintly. So deliberate on this fully, act as you see fit. Be free. All right, my friends, the Gita is inviting us, think carefully about what our life is, where we're heading, what do we want, who do we think we are, what do we think will be the consequences of our choices, what do we want. Here's how I think about it. When we're on the moments of death, maybe it's too late to go out in the world and change anything. You're right there at the end of life. You look back on life, what are you lying there, you're old, sitting in your rocking chair, nothing to do except look back on life. What do you want to think? Do you want to think, well, how do you want to process that? Do you want to feel like, okay, I acted according to my highest ideals? But what are the highest ideals? Well, the Gita is giving us ideals. It's up to us to decide whether we read the Gita that way or accept it that way. That, of course, lies with Arjuna. We're free agents. But that's how the Gita is presenting itself, the highest knowledge, right? It's the highest teachings. How did he start this section? Well, many times he starts off saying, this is the highest knowledge. Maybe he'll do it in a minute. Let me just go back a little bit now. Yeah, which is the highest stage of knowledge, right? We started our section today. O son of Kunti, having attained perfection in the Atman and knowledge of that. Now listen, as I tell you in summary, how one can attain Brahman, which is the highest stage of knowledge. The Gita is presenting this. We're just reading it. It's up to us what we make of it, what we accept it, reject it. That's our, of course. But let's be clear about what it's saying. It's saying this is the highest knowledge. So, so let's go back. So then he says, having said all this, listen once again. He's about to finish the whole text. One more time. Listen once again to my supreme words. In case you didn't get it, Arjuna. Really ask the reader. The most secret of all secrets, the highest thing, the highest, most secret, meaning intimate truth of the Gita. He's now going to say it one more time. Listen again. He started off in 50 saying, now listen as I tell you in summary, right? So he starts off saying, I'm going to give you a summary. Verse 50, end of the Gita. Verse 50, summary. But now, having given a summary, he says, listen again. He's going to summarize the summary. Listen once again to my supreme words, the most secret of all secrets, because you are very dear to me. He doesn't want Arjuna to miss this. This is his highest message to his beloved devotee, which means us, my friends. Arjuna is a mouthpiece for human beings. Because you're very dear to me, I'm speaking for your benefit. What else does Ishvara speak for? Ishvara is complete in all ways, fully perfect, not speaking for himself. What is that highest, most secret of secrets? Always think of me. That's it. How simple is that? Become my bhakta, devotee. Worship me. Offer respects to me. Right? Here. Manmana bhava mad bhakto. Manmana. What do you do with your manas, your mind? Fix it on me. Bhava. Be one whose mind is fixed on me. Mad bhakto. Be my bhakta. Madhyaji. Worship me. Mam namaskuru. Do namaha to me. Om namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Do namaha to me. Worship me, offer respects to me. In this way, you will truly come to me. This I promise you because you're very dear to me. You don't need to study philosophy. You don't need to be up on all the Ishvara and near Ishvara debates that we covered in this semester. You don't need to be a big Vedanta Pandit, big scholar of Vedanta. Don't need to know Sanskrit. We'll see in next readings of the Bhagavatam. They're the Krishna's most beloved bhaktas. They're illiterate. They're not even high. They're just forest dwellers, cowherd community living in the forest. Come, my bhakta, worship me. Offer respects to me. This is bhakti. Very simple. Remember, we read the verses of chapter 9. Just offer me a fruit, a flower, water. Offer whatever you do to me. It's not like that in Patanjali Yoga. It's very hard work, intense mental discipline to Chitta Vritti Nirodha. The other parts of Jnana, you have to be very learned, and usually it was just male Brahmins that followed the path of Vedanta. They're not bhakti. Remember, Krishna says anyone. Doesn't matter your gender, your caste. In this way, you will truly come to me. This I promise because you're very dear to me. Now, this is the bridge to the next reading. The last reading for the semester is the Bhagavata Purana. Having spent the whole text saying, do your dharma, do your duties, perform your activities, right? Even here, perform all activities, which means dharma, right? Dedicate your dharma, your actions to me, right? Before, and so forth. Having spent the whole text saying, performing all kinds of activities, there it is again. Now he says, the last, final, highest teaching of all is relinquish all forms of dharma. Don't even be attached to performing dharma, just surrender to Bhagavan. Let Bhagavan figure out what is dharma, what is not dharma. Become the instrument of Bhagavan. So rather than following some externally defined notion of dharma, Relinquish all forms of dharma and seek refuge in me alone. Because when we do dharma, we kind of take refuge in dharma. What's my dharma? What is my, like now, for example, I'm taping this lecture when I probably should be sleeping, right? So I have a conflicted dharma. I have the health dharma. The doctor told me, you take rest. That was one dharma. And then I have this other dharma. Oh no, but I'm behind on my recordings. I have to try to fit, it's a conflicted dharma. The whole Bhagavad Gītā is a conflicted dharma, because Arjuna has a dharma to protect his army against, but on the other side, there's Bhima and Drona, his guru and his beloved grandfather. And his dharma is to try and kill him, because they're on the other side. They're gonna devastate his army. The only way to protect his army, one dharma, is to take out Bhishma and Drona. But his dharma to his grandfather and guru is to honor them and serve them and worship them. It's a conflicted dharma. So Krishna says here, you know what? Relinquish all forms of dharma. Just seek refuge in me alone. Right? In real life, there's often a conflicted dharma. It's not always clear what our dharma is. Not always. Why the Mahabharata is such a sophisticated epic. It's not black and white, like good guys and bad guys. There's all these shades of gray. You know, the five Pandavas often engage in not very dharmic behavior, and on the other hand, the Duryodhana and the so-called bad guys, they can be very noble, they can be very honorable. Think of Karna. What a magnificent personality. He's on the other side. I mean, you know, there are at times he's arrogant and cruel, but most of the time he's just such a wonderful, you know, so there's no black and white, shades of gray. Here Krishna says, look, just give up all dharma and surrender to me. And you won't get any, I will free you from all wrongdoing. You won't get any bad karma. Normally, if you give up dharma, bad karma. I give up my dharma for any other reason, by laziness or fear. I'm a warrior, right? Can't be fearful, can't run away from the battlefield out of fear. So if you give up dharma for any other reason other than bhakti, well, then that's bad karma. You get bad karma. But here, if we surrender one, and we will see, and when we start the Bhagavatam, we're going to come back to this verse. So remember it. Here it is. Sarva dharman parityagya. Sarva dharman parityagya. Having given up all dharmas, mamekam sharanam vraja. Come to my shelter alone. Remember that. At least remember it in English. We'll put that on the final. Okay. What's unique about this? Well, what's unique is he spent the whole text saying, do your dharma, do your dharma, do your dharma. You know, give up the fruits, don't be attached to the fruits, do it selflessly, to be sure, but nonetheless do it. And now he's saying, well, you know what? There's a higher principle than that, and that is just surrender to me. Who cares about dharma? Dharma only pertains to the material body and mind. There's no dharma in the kingdom of God. There's no dharma in Brahman. Dharma pertains to embodied beings and how they interact with each other in positive ways. What's the highest then? The Bhagavatam is going to start. The real dharma is surrender to Bhagavan. That's the dharma of the Atman. What's the dharma of the Atman? Okay? So relinquish all forms of dharma, seek refuge in me alone. I will free you from all wrongdoing. You're not going to make bad karma if you surrender to Bhagavan and give up dharma. Do not fear. But then you can't go around teaching this to everybody, because people will say, oh, that's good. I'll just give up I'll abandon my wife and kids, go off to the pub. And so he says, no, you must never utter this most secret wisdom, which with giving up all dharma to surrender to Bhagavan. That's only for the bhaktas who really are going to surrender to Bhagavan. But don't speak this to one who is devoid of devotion or austerity. So someone doesn't want to do austerity, lazy, and run away from duty, or who's envious of God. No, this is only for people who love God. Look, 24. This is probably the most often quoted verse of the Gītā. This one here. Right? So where is that? Footnote here. Relinquish all forms of dharma. See, we looked at the thing. Look at the footnote 24. This verse is probably the most often quoted verse in the Gītā. It is called the Charama Shloka, the highest of the Gīta's teachings. The first word of the Bhagavad Gītā begins with the word dharma. Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yayotsavaha. Chapter 1, verse 1. And there we define dharma as that by which the world is held together. It was Arjuna's dharma to fight. It is the teacher's dharma to teach. The child's dharma to respect and obey the parents. Every aspect of society is governed by dharma. Yet here, for a higher purpose, we are asked to give up dharma when we transcend the world and when simply connect the soul to God. If by doing so we incur some wrong, we are told that God will protect us. All right, and then you can read this. Shankara says this, and Ramanuja says that. But this is only for bhaktas. Don't go around. Krishna says you must never utter this most secret wisdom to one who is devoid of devotional austerities, who is envious of God, or is an atheist, who doesn't accept God in the first place. One who declares the supreme mystery to my bhaktas. Share this message that the highest form of bhakti is just total surrender, even if that means wait till we see the gopis in the next couple of weeks. Then we'll understand. They gave up dharma. They heard Krishna's flute. Immediately they left their homes. Their husbands tried to stop them. The babies, they just left their babies. They just they're nursing their babies. They dropped the babies and ran out the front door. They gave up their dharma. What mother leaves, nursing a child and then dumps the child that goes running off to be in the forest with another man? Because of that, it's not just another man, it's God. But that's what giving up all dharma is going to look like. Krishna doesn't tell us in the Gītā what it looks like, but the Bhagavad Purana that we turn to next week, or this week actually, we'll see what that looks like. Right, so keep this in mind, my friends. This is our bridge to the next reading. Okay, 1866. Relinquish all forms of dharma and seek refuge in me alone. When we were teaching this in the classroom, I used to give students the opportunity to learn a verse by heart of the Gītā. And if they did that, I would give them an extra point towards their final. But of course, that's hard to do that now. So here's a great verse. Sarva dharman parityagya. Give up all dharma. And mam ekam sharanam vacha. Surrender to me alone. All right. So that's even the footnote declares is probably the most quoted verse, and it's called the Charama Shloka, or the highest, the Charama, the highest shloka of the Gīta's teaching. Comes at the very end. Okay, and then Krishna says, one who declares this supreme mystery, this shloka, this verse, shloka is a verse. The sutras are, the philosophical texts, but the Gīta's verses are not called sutras, they're called shlokas, because they're in meter, shlokas in meter. And most of the meter of the Gītā is 8 syllables. Dharma kshetre, kuru kshetre, 8. Samaveta, yuyutsavaha, 8. And then 4 lines of 8 syllables. And that's a shloka. That is called a shloka. So one who declares the supreme mystery to my devotees, who cultivates unalloyed bhakti, will come to me without a doubt. Amongst mankind, there is no one more dear than this person. So Krishna is saying, we're sharing of total surrender to Bhagavan, and one who tries to share that's the highest service, the most pleasing thing that one could do. Krishna is saying here, for God. Hinduism is not a preaching religion, it doesn't go around trying to convert. But that doesn't mean it doesn't share its teachings, not with a view to convert in a forceful, aggressive sort of way, but just imparting wisdom. So there's no one more dear than this person who declares this mystery to my bhaktas, who shares this for those who have a devotional disposition. Nor in the future shall there ever be another more dear to me. And then that's the end. One who studies the sacred dialogue worships me through the sacrifice of knowledge. Krishna says, just by reading the Gītā, we have kind of sacrificed our intelligence. In that sense, we've made a sacrifice of knowledge. We've devoted our time, taken the course. That's a sacrifice. This is my judgment. So by doing this, we according to this verse, it's a sacrifice of knowledge. A person of faith who is without envy, who simply hears these teachings, becomes liberated and attains the realm of the pious. So even if we're not great yogis, or we don't have grand yoga aspirations, according to this verse, if we just hear the teaching without envy, we'll become liberated, whatever that means. and attain the realms of the pious. Well, that just means the celestial realms. What does it say in the Sanskrit? Shadhan anasuyascha shrunuyad apiyonaraha muktaha, liberated, or shubhalokan prapnuyat, or attains the celestial realm. For those who've done punya karmanam, pious deeds. Anyway, in other words, it's, it's auspicious. And he finishes, oh, conqueror of wealth, Arjuna, have you heard this with the concentrated mind? Yeah, right? That's it. Spoke the whole Gītā. You do as you will, remember. Act as you please, right? Remember he said that up here. Sit right here. On verse 63, deliberate on this fully, act as you see fit. We study the Gītā, we receive the words of Sri Krishna. Krishna says, okay, have you heard it? Do what you want. No free will. I'd say that you have free will. All right. Have you heard this with a concentrated mind? Has your illusion due to ignorance been destroyed? This illusion that we think we're the body mind. We think we can find happiness through chasing desires. That's illusion. Can never. Body is enjoyments are temporary. The body is subject to suffering and ultimately old age. The real happiness we seek. To who we're not, we're Atman. So the happiness we seek is in the Atman for the Jnana traditions and for the Bhaktas. That's true, but even greater happiness lies in connecting the Atman with Bhagavan. So Arjuna says, yes, O infallible one, by your mercy, my illusion is now destroyed. My memory is restored. I remember who I am. I'm an Atman. I was confused at the beginning, right? Didn't know whether to fight or not to fight. Now he knows what to do. He's going to surrender to Bhagavan. I'm fixed in my mind. My doubts are dispelled. I will carry out your words. And that's it. Goes back to the Mahabharata. This is the Sanjaya is the bard of the blind king. He's reciting the whole thing to the blind king. And he says, thus I've heard this wonderful conversation between the son of Vasudeva and the great soul Arjuna. And that's it. And then here in 77, he remembered the form. As I repeatedly remember the extraordinary form of Hari, I'm amazed, O king. Right, by the grace of Vyasa, I've heard the supreme secret. Don't worry about Vyasa. He has the ability to see what's going on, like a mystic ability to see what's going on the battlefield, even though it's distant. I'm thrilled at every moment, remembering the sacred and wonderful conversation between Keshava, which is Krishna and Arjuna. I repeatedly remember the extraordinary form of Hari Krishna. I'm amazed just thinking about that amazing form, that battlefield form. I'm thrilled again and again. Last verse, a kind of a warrior verse. It's not really a yogi verse. Wherever there is Krishna, the master of yoga, wherever there is Arjuna, the holder of the bow, there will be fortune, victory, prosperity, and morality. These are the goals of a warrior. Warrior wants fortune, wants victory, wants prosperity and morality, not of a yogi, not of a bhakta. Bhakta wants love of God. Yogi wants detachment from the world and, and realization of Atman. But these are the goals of the warrior, because now we're back in the Mahabharata. We're no longer in the Gītā as a yoga text. That is my opinion. All right, so that's it. Read a few verses, and we are going to remember 1866 for our link to the next text. Okay, 1866. I'll repeat once more, and that will be it for this evening. Relinquish all forms of dharma and seek refuge in me alone. Remember that. We'll see how that looks in the life of beloved cowherd family and friends and girlfriends in our next sessions. All right, my friends. Have a great evening. And we'll see you soon. I hope this was okay. And even though my energy level was a bit low, did the best I could, and we'll stop that now. Good evening.